I think today is the third classes, for the reading of the foundation of Buddhism. Now, I think last week we finished page 23rd, actually page 24, the first paragraph. All right, shall we just, Sakaranda, maybe you can start to read the page 24, the second paragraph.
The legend of the Buddha stands and reads at this point, and we must pass over many of its details. According to tradition, the Buddha spent as many as 7 weeks seated beneath and in the vicinity of the Bodhi tree, enjoying the bliss of emancipation. Once a great storm arose as the Buddha was seated in meditation, and a naga, a great serpent, came and spread its foot over the Buddha to protect him. Again, this scene is often depicted, especially in image of Cambodian province. What's that? Province.
Okay.
The Buddha had achieved his purpose. He had come to an understanding of suffering and had realized the sensation of suffering. In Buddhist terms, seated beneath the tree, he had a direct experience of the unconditioned, the transcendent, the deathless nirvana, Pali nirvana. He had come to know directly the deep and underlying way of things that is referred in India as Dharma. This is said that at the point his mind inclined not to teach.
It's okay. All right. So I think what we have taught last time is until that then the Buddha, before his enlightenment, he had encountered the Mara challenge also. 就是 Chinese is Mara, 就是魔，我们一般the challenge of the Mara. And also in here also did mention a little bit, the Mara, the more, is different from the concept like Christianity. So what the more is. So what I like to generally conclude that Mara, it's more like a divine being, 一种天神啊. But it's only this divine being is usually is a jealous type of divine being, But it's because it's also according to this Indian mythology. So it's there are 3 kinds of divine beings. One kind of divine beings is certainly that's what people believe is like a divine being. It's a Tensan Deva, or in the Sanskrit Pali language. And then another type of divine being is what we call Asura or Ahura or Asura, just Asura in Chinese. And then the third kind of divine being is what we call the Mara. Deva in Chinese usually translated as a Tensan or Shen, but sometimes in English we translate it as a deity, because or even depends on whether it's a plural form or singular form. If it's a plural form, you would say 诸神, and that means many deities. But if it's a singular form, some people even translate it as a god like that. Okay, kind of like the divine beings. And then the Asura is Asura. It's of course it's also a kind of divine beings. And the third time is called the Mara. It means more. It's also divine beings. But it's always believed that the Deva, usually in Buddhist term when you use the divine being as a Deva, refer to the good one, kind, lovely one. When you refer to Asura one, it's referred to not necessarily always bad, but the thing is they are the one who always opposed to this Deva. And the Asura is also always easily get anger. Okay, but I mean this is how a general idea, but it doesn't mean all the Buddhist texts. I mean even in the early Buddhist text, not necessarily always mention Asura as the anger type, but generally refer to them they almost like the bad party, and this is a good party. So, and in Indian mythology, also if you go to like since here I mentioned about Cambodia, you know that Cambodia have one of the building called Angkor Wat, Huge Ku in Chinese. So also you do see the temple there depicted the two kind of Deva. I mean you could say two divine beings, two type of divine beings having a war, raising a war. That's referred to the Deva and Asura. Okay, and then the Mara Chinese usually translate it as a Mo. It's also a divine being. It's only different than Mara, but it's different from Christianity. For example, always even not necessarily Christianity. You know, in general, how the West believed the demon. It's a type that live under the like a hell, something like that. It's like those who live under the hell in Buddhism called Yama, Yemo. Okay, I'm sure you heard about it. No. It's not Mara, it's Yama. Okay. Yemo. Oh. It's believed that under the hell there was kind of like a powerful kind of guardians, and then of course among the guardians or guards there, they have the rank. One of the one who are many in charge of the realm of hell is called the Yama. Okay. Anyway, so and also Asura is interesting. In certain early Buddhist texts mention that Asura actually live under the water too, even if they live in the earth. So I don't know. I don't think usually these Buddhist texts here. I mean, people talk about it, but when I read the Buddhist text, I noticed that there were a few times the Buddha say something really marvelous. One thing of the marvelous thing about is that the Asura actually, according to the Buddhism, they live in the deep sea, and their body is huge and big. You know, that's all. And that's how. Anyway, that's how. But they all are kind of like belong to a powerful kind of being. They are not like. Anyway, they are not like a ghost. They are definitely. It's just another kind of like a divine beings. But in Chinese, translated as I just mentioned again, Shen and Asura, and then Mo, 还有野魔. Okay. Okay. All right. And so we did say that before the Buddha attained enlightenment, so he encountered a challenge, you know, by the Mara. So that we have done that discussion last week. Now, so we come to that anyway. The legend, we know that the legend of the Buddha is it's a lot, you know, it's dense and rich, you know, at this point. Anyway, and after the Buddha attained enlightenment, so he did spend as many as 7 weeks. You know, 7 weeks he was seated under beneath the vicinity of the Bodhi tree, enjoying the bliss of the emancipation. You know, the word emancipation, it means liberation. Sometimes we like to use more like emancipation. It's a kind, anyway. So if you don't understand the English term, or you like to know the term, how the term generally understand in Chinese, so please let me know. Okay. And then there was once that a great storm arose, you know, when there like a hurricane, kind of like the hurricanes comes along, a great storm comes along. But that time actually the Buddha was seated in a meditation. A naga, anyone? Sagarada, except Sagarada. Anyone, what is naga? When you learn this, a lot of time you need to know.
Dragon.
Yeah, you could say dragon.
Go with serpent.
Naga. Sometimes we translate long, but sometimes we translate long xiang. Okay, the reason is why, because generally, especially not in here, in this context, it's very clear. It's as in like a dragon, or you could say the big snake, right? But sometimes in a Buddhist text, because you don't know whether they want to refer, because this term has two meanings. One meaning as the dragon and another meaning as the elephant. That's why in Chinese translation, sometimes you don't know which one you need to translate. Whether you have to translate this, because this is clear, because you cannot ask the elephant to cover you, right? It has to be the dragon. So, but that's the reason why when you do translation, you have to understand why sometimes the Chinese are very smart in some way. They like in Lotus Sutra and some other place, 就是Lotus Sutra 就是妙法莲花经. Now remember they have a phrase also. 妙法莲花经 is a phrase about a certain beings come around, but you don't know whether that being referred to the dragon or the elephant. But generally, of course, dragon are mostly probable, highly probable that it refer to the dragon. Anyway, so that's why then usually Chinese translate it as 龙象. 听过吗? I'm sure you heard about in Buddhist term 龙象. That means dragon and elephant. So that's the reason why when you see people doing translation from Chinese into English again, they make some mistake. They thought they would refer to two things. There was a dragon and then the elephant. But actually, if you know the Sanskrit, no, it only refers to one thing. It's just because these words have two meanings, okay? Naga, okay? Get it now? So, okay. But here, general understanding is that definitely Naga, just put it the original here. It's just referred to the dragon. So here they say a Greek serpent, like, and then, spread his, spread its hook over the Buddha to protect him. So that's why, have you ever seen a Buddha statue? I remember when I was a kid, in Malaysia, you do have a lot of influence by like a Thailand. So, but in Thailand too, like Cambodia and Thailand, actually in old days they were one country. Now I'm not going to talk about history now. But anyway, so they have a similar culture, you would say that way. So, and sometimes you see the Buddha statue, you will see there's a statue that Buddha sitting, but there was a kind of like a dragon, like a cobra, somehow like look like a cobra, big cobra. Then like they have the hook cover the Buddha head, But I think this kind of statue, if you look at the art in China, you don't find this at all. You don't find this art at all. And this is about archaeology and also about the art in China, about the art in Southeast Asia. You could argue that why this kind of thing statue is not been found in China even in ancient time. Or if you do find one, then for archaeology study, then you need to find how come Chinese have this idea that you have that kind of like a serpent, on top of the Buddha head, where the Buddha was sitting. Then definitely, maybe that was a time a lot of merchants coming this way from Cambodia or that area, they come to, China. So then in the old day they have a trade between and so forth. Anyway, this is another subject. I just want to say, it's a very popular image actually, not in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka doesn't really have this kind of image, but you do always find this type of image, particularly in Thailand and Cambodia. It's very popular, very famous. Okay, one day when you go to the Thailand and Cambodia, maybe even some other countries, then you will see this sort of statue. Actually, that statue refers to, the symbolic of the statue is about after the Buddha attained enlightenment, and then he said that he was still stay in the same place, Lumbini, in the Lumbini where he was enjoying the beauty of the Nibbana. Okay. Huh? Oh no, sorry. The Buddha Gaya. So Buddhijaya in Buddha Gaya. So enjoying this the beauty of the Nibbana. So. And it's the legend said that this Naga, even being such a powerful serpent, so big, bigger than a human body, kind of like, even we protect the Buddha, and this kind of thing is very important for the Southeast Asia, I guess. Perhaps the Chinese people think differently. And I did look for the Chinese source about the Buddha life. Let's say the source that been translated into Chinese, there were a lot actually. Even when the earlier monk like Paramata during the 4th century, And a lot of monks actually, the first thing when they came to China, they did translate a lot of the story about the Buddha. And that's perhaps something like everybody have to learn first. And then when you look at those translations of the Chinese, in Chinese that about the life of the Buddha, you don't find this passage about being there was a kind of like the serpent head, coming to protect the Buddha because of the storm came around. Anyway, get it now? So, right, I think that's I guess the professor Rupert Gethin, when he write this story, put this thing here, maybe it was definitely the thing. There were many things I mentioned about. But he want to mention this. When you go to nowadays, if you go to India, if you go to the Buddha Gaya, and they try to locate, I don't think it's real, but they try to locate the Buddha spent the first week after enlightenment sitting under the Bodhi tree, and then spend 1 week standing there looking for the Bodhi tree, and then he spent 1 week just doing a walking meditation. There was a walking meditation path to Buddha. They will tell you, especially the tour guide, that's the place where the Buddha usually do the walking meditation. And then spend another week, and then sitting near the pond. It's near the pond, the pond. Just beside the pond, and then the storm about to come, and then the Greek serpent would come to protect the Buddha, so something like that. So. And it's beautifully, put it. Surely this is. You have to imagine, especially for the Southeast Asia or in South Asia, it's a beautiful story. And then this Naga came to protect the Buddha. Even he proclaimed that. So I'm going to protect the Buddha. Such a great being is being, born. Basically, he attained enlightenment now. And not only the rain would not going to wet, the Buddha, but it's also any insect, any mosquito would not going to harm the Buddha. So he's going to eat all this kind of thing whenever it comes to. Okay. Maybe that's one reason why the Chinese doesn't like it also, because he's going to eat all these insects. I don't know. It's just my joke. Maybe people will question, oh, there's no compassion then, So, but it's different idea of in the South Asia and Southeast Asia. Just to show, because for them, snake or a serpent is a kind of, the living thing that they live in the adoration as well as the awe, with awe. I mean, you're afraid that, and at the same time you respect it too, But of course, you know what I mean. It's not like Chinese. They would cut it and eat the serdap. The Chinese would cut it. Yeah, in Taiwan you do have the shop too, and there's snake, and they would kill it, and then they take this gold, the gold of the snake. Anyway, right. And then Sagananda just read it also. The other one is that, you have to understand this. Maybe you have question. So actually what the Buddha achieved, his purpose, is that he had come to understanding of suffering and had realized the cessation of suffering. Okay. So that's very important. He said he had achieved his purpose because, in other words, he had want to depict that. We know that the Buddha have encountered, have witnessed various types of suffering, and he understood that it's a suffering. But now, this is not just a weakness, but he understands understand the suffering, and had realized the cessation of suffering. Because this is definitely a very, very important topic in the whole practice of Buddhism. Okay, in our mainly. Oh, yes. I guess. Can we just leave it a little moment, because definitely the Rupert in this book, that I think he had a passage when we talk about the suffering, the Four Noble Truths, he did mention, and he tried to put certain, I think it's a good remark on the understanding of suffering. Well, for us, we take it for granted. That's how we understand suffering. But in the like you were just asking questions, especially in the West, the way how generally people thinking about what suffering is about and how Buddhism look at it. So we will discuss that in a little bit later. But at least just bear in mind, certainly the purpose, basically, then the Buddha achieved this sort of thing, understand the suffering and realize the cessation of suffering. This concept might be for you, for some people might be think it's not nothing special, but definitely, if you study Buddhism, it's very important. Anyone here read the book about, even don't say the life of the Dalai Lama? No. And then, or even do you see a movie, it's called Kundung? Have you any? No. Okay. I just write that. I can encourage you, if you have time, if you're interested, Kundung. Well, this what the book name, the movie name is of Kundung. I mean, it definitely depends how you look at it, but then that movie was based on someone writing about the life of Dalai Lama, how he left Tibet and then he came to India, you know. But why I want to mention this book, but at least based on what Dalai Lama description about when he was a little kid, how he been brought up, how he been choose to be a Dalai Lama, and then how he had study, you know, and then how the teacher. I mean, I remember many things. One thing that he was saying is that, and then a lot of people think, and maybe when you are the Mahayana, like remember Mahayana, we learned the term. And do you know what's Mahayana? The Dachen. Okay. When you learn the Mahayana, so you always, you don't, not what it basically means. You think that something you might not necessarily have to be, you know, they have to study about. But then when you see the movie, he was asking, tell me what is Four Noble Truths, the teacher asked. And then the Dalai Lama, when he was a kid, when he studied, and he started to, you know, recite what is the Four Noble Truths, and then the teacher locked his hand and say, you are not studying, you are just repeating the text say. I want you to understand. I want you to use your own words telling me what is the Four Noble Truths. Anyway, I mentioned this something to do with even I, you know, even a lot of people when they study Buddhism, especially from a Mahayana background, they thought Four Noble Truths is something almost I never heard about, you know, Sisandi, almost I never heard about, or they almost like even though they might heard about it, they might know the term is there, but they never really pay attention. It's nothing almost like unimportant. But that's very important concept in the Tibetan Buddhism as well, definitely in what we call the Pali Buddhism. Okay, you please do remember that, because why? That's going to explain about the achieve the Buddha, the purpose of being a Buddha. Actually, first is to understand what is suffering and what is the cessation of the suffering, or out of the suffering. Okay. All right, and then in the Buddhist term, when he say we must learn, I mean, this book is for many purposes, and for people who might be even no any idea about Buddhism. So that's right. And the Buddhist term, so seated beneath the tree, he had a direct experience of the unconditioned, the transcendent, the definite nirvana. It's called Nibbana. Please also remember another term. You know, when you study the book in Buddhism in English, this term we always love remain as untranslated, because whatever you translate, it doesn't sound good. Yeah. Even the term suffering, something we don't like translate. We only retain origin. We call dukkha. Anyway, we'll come to that in next time. So sometimes we translate this thing called unconditioned, or sometimes we translate it transcendent, or sometimes we translate the deathless nirvana. Okay. Or in Pali it's called Nibbana. I'm sure you read the word. Remember, Sanskrit is you read it nirvana, and Pali is Nibbana. So when you hear anybody addressing Buddhism in English, they always will say this word, you know, Nibbana, that means you know that person was talking about in Pali. If they say Nirvana, I mean they refer the same word but in Sanskrit. Nibbana. Nibbana, yeah. So, and what are these nirvana generally? And no, what are these? We also will discuss later. So basically, then we know that the Buddha had directly, you know, had a deep and underlying way of understanding a thing. But in India, that is what we call Dhamma, Fa. Okay. 就是剑法或者是正道这个法。But however, even after he attained Buddhahood, what happened to him? It is said that at that point, his mind inclined not to teach. So this is the next one paragraph is a copy from the original Buddhist text. So anyone want to volunteer to read? Yeah, I'll read now. All right, and then could you just read the next paragraph too? Yeah. Sahambati. Yeah, could you read the next paragraph? Sahambati. All right, thank you. So, and then actually, according to the Buddhist legends, the Buddha didn't really want to teach at first. He was quite reluctant whether he should have, what he have attained under the Bodhi tree should be delivered to people. But he was hesitating. When we say that he was hesitating, he kind of like maybe he would go, okay, that's fine. I maybe remain as such until I die. So. But then the legend said that at the time there was a god, or what the mighty god called Dhammadipa. It's a Brahma who came down as a Brahma, came down and requested the Buddha had to teach. And the word actually he was asking, like here the book could say, some legend also when you start to give a preaching. So like in Cambodia, even in Thailand also, depend on if it's during a especially big ceremony, and they need to have people sitting there. Sometimes they even have a beautiful hymn, chanting, not chant like singing, a very traditional way. And then I once been invited, for example, in Cambodia to give a talk because was one of the renowned monk passed away in Boston. And then I was sitting on a chair, invited to sit on the middle, among a lot of monks, because that is the most famous monk actually in Cambodia, but he passed away. Then after some time live in America. So anyway, so I was sitting there, and then there were few of the women were chanting about that, almost 20 minutes like that, long way of singing. So. But it was good for me at that time, I have to say, because anyway, I need to think what I'm going to say. I had 10 minutes. But that's the tradition, because now, anyway, the word is just basically here. There are a few things here to mention. One thing, first, what did the Brahma Sahambati, the Lord of the words, when he join the palms. So what did he require? He reminded Buddha, there are beings here with but little dust in their eyes. Please teach Dhamma out of compassion for them. Because it's believed that imagine when a person is this word is very popular in Buddhism. So in the dust in the eye, you can make a song. Okay. In Buddhism understanding, when a person have a lot of dust in the eyes, they suffer a lot, right? When you have a little dust in your eyes, you suffer. So, and then because they suffer a lot, and they have attacked by this suffering for so much that, and they forgot actually the eyes have dust, right? Right. Only when the people sometimes, not necessarily all the time, when they have a dust in the eyes, or just a little dust in the eyes, they know there's a suffering. They want to find a way how to put on the dust from the eyes. And this is definitely, when you're a child, I know that we all have faced the same problem. When the dust comes to our eyes, we don't know how to do something. We just try to rub it. Something when the more you rub it, the more you get worse too, right? So I still remember, and it's a beautiful simile because it's much to do with the cultural background. So like in Asia, generally when this problem happens, you start to cry, you start to feel very uneasy, you want to get rid of the dust from the eyes. And what they do is the mother always come to help. I mean, this is how the picture is portrayed. And the mother always carry the child, don't cry, this is just a little thing. It's just only you don't know how to deal with it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't come in your life, something like that. But it makes you a lot of suffering. So, and then your mouth will blow, right? And then, so usually the blow, and then, so when you feel comfort, and the tear comes, and the dust will just come out from there. So, and basically, it's a kind of way to depict the Buddha had this kind of like a compassion, right? So just like a mother that will, nurture you. It's nothing big deal, but it makes you a lot of suffering. Big deal, comfort your mind. Don't be afraid. So when you have a right way, correct way, the blow is also, you have to understand, the word nibbana actually is from the word nirvana. Vana means a kind of blow. It means vanishing, something vanishing, because something being blown off, So at that, this is definitely, if you look at the Sanskrit, culture or the adult culture, they all have connected. It's make it kind of whole thing beautifully too. Anyway, so it say that out of compassion, so the Brahma Dhammadipa told the Buddha, so out of compassion you should preach. Even though a lot of people might not understand what you're teaching about, what your teaching is about, but there are still people have a little dust in their eyes that they will understand what the teaching is about. Now, this passage is really important for the story. That here is clearly, firstly, want to make a very clear cut about the different understanding of Indian tradition as a religion and the Buddhism. Okay. Please, this is really important because when people study religion, especially when you study Buddhism, and a lot of people, including, especially if people they don't know the Indian religion, what they taught about, they all mix up, But here, it's very clear to say, but otherwise, why the Buddha want to hesitate? No, he could just proclaim, I'm one of them, one of the teachers. But here he wouldn't say. He was hesitating. He think that nobody will understand his teaching because that is not how the Indian people understand that's not how in those days what the Indian people understand the nirvana is about. Right. Any question up to here? Right. Everyone want to? Any question? Nirvana 就是涅槃了。Enlightenment, you were talking about the translation. Enlightenment. Yeah, 证悟讲. In Chinese, enlightenment usually we translate as a 证悟. But nirvana is 证到涅槃. It's always when you say someone attained nirvana, refer to someone who had cut off the reincarnation. and or attain a kind of a peaceful state that none of the defilements will arise anymore like that. 就是没有任何的烦恼会再升起。Yeah, yeah. No, it not necessarily has to be by that stage. It's not necessarily referred to the Buddha later on, because Arahant also can attain Nirvana. Okay. So I think we discussed that also last time also. Yeah. All right. No further question. We can just keep on the one, and then we can start to read the handout also later. Yeah. Anyone read the next paragraph first? Yeah. Do you want to read the next paragraph? Yeah. Yeah.
The Buddha approached the five who had been his companions, but he practiced austerities and then instruction in the path to the cessation of suffering that he had started. In this way, he performed a Buddha's 11th act, setting in motion or turning the wheel of
Dharma. No, try to not Dhamma. Dharma. Yeah, okay.
We are told there were 6 arahants in the world, 6 in the world who had cultivated the path to the cessation of suffering and realized the unconditioned.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, so then because of that reason, so he started to embark his journey to give the first sermon, or we translate as first sermon. You could say the first talk or first teachings, to who? To the practitioner or those who follow him to practice the austerities, right? And everybody have to understand this because it's very important. It's because if the Buddha didn't have the first sermon, and after even the first sermon, if nobody understands what his teaching is about, maybe the Buddha will be just no more. I think when he said no more, he might be just a retreat to the forest again, and maybe he would just stay there up to he passed away. If that was the case, this is how in the Buddhist tradition understand he would become a Dhammacakkappavattana Buddha, 就辟支佛. Okay. He will become a Dhammacakkappavattana Buddha. Just a term. It refers to the Buddha doesn't have a large amount of the followers or practitioner. Just might be staying in a very quiet place. So it's not necessarily saying that he doesn't teach. He's just not interested in teaching. And then someone might be learn from him only. But even those his students who learn from him, having the same kind of mind attitude, kind of like not going to, encourage people to learn more. It would just, after they learn, it's fine. I would just like my teacher, just stay in the forest and then would just, until he pass away. It's called the Dhammacakkappavattana Buddha, okay? That's peaceful. But it is said actually, because of he was invited by the Brahma Sahambati, so he had a different idea, okay? Oh, we forgot to mention actually, how we understand this Sahambati, because some people question this, especially when you learn this during with the children. This is a very very popular way when you teach Buddhism to the kids and the children, that you need to tell about a story. And the god called Sahambati came down and requested the Buddha. And then sometimes the kid will ask, oh, the Buddha is the one who knows everything. Why someone who knows everything need the Sahambati, the God need to request in order to teach, right? Don't you say that the Buddha is one of the compassionate one? If he's the most compassionate one, why he need to be requested, So that's why there are so many explanations there, okay? Some say, I know because we have no proof. The legend is how far it's true, but definitely we have the legend passed down from generation to generation. And then when you compare all these traditions nowadays, so all these legends still retain in different traditions the same. So you could say that definitely is very popular, everybody accept it, right? So when the people accept it, these legends, and how do you explain, why the god Sahambadi had to come down to request a Buddha, so the Buddha started to teach. Otherwise the Buddha would remain silent, So that's why one explanation say, because God Sahambadi is how the Indian people believe is the creator. Okay. And then now imagine that the creator itself come down to ask the Buddha to go to teach. It's kind of like making a story telling the Indian people the Buddha is powerful or more greater than the creator that you believe, right? Get it now? And the second explanation is also, we suggest that, what is that? They suggested that because the meditation I used to teach is called the Brahma Vihara, the force of light abiding, 就四无量心. Actually, the original term of the meditation of the 四无量心 means the force of light abiding, the force of light abode. It's called 四梵住. So it refers to the creators. You live in like a creator, That means this meditation is a kind of develop this kind of meditation that is the loving kindness, 慈悲喜舍嘛, loving kindness, compassion, the sympathetic joy, and equanimity. When you have this sort of mind with you, you just live as if like you live as a creator. That's how the Indian Buddhism thing is the highest, the most powerful. Okay. That's why the second explanation is that, so it's kind of like become a symbolic figure to show that actually the Brahma itself, the creator itself, associated with compassion, right? That means the Buddha had compassion, kind of like, because as I say, the people may ask, any developer who have attained Nirvana should have compassion, but this is the story make it almost like become a figurative kind of thing, like the Buddha have the compassion. And the third one, which is also is true, and it's all tradition also believe that, and when I say believe, it means still will retain the tradition. That is that the teaching, not, if you have something good, you are not because of out of the craving, you say, I want to teach you something, it has to be asked. And that's the reason why, as I say, traditionally, especially if those who follow real tradition, even in Tibetan too, and or you could say the whole Indian tradition, the Tibetans, even nowadays, or even the party. So normally, if this is any important ceremony, they request a monk to go to teach. He might be a small monk, but people recognize him as a good, someone nice, good, new monk, or not really become a monk, like very old. And they invite them before the lay people especially, they have request. So please, out of the compassion and kindness, you need to tell us the Dhamma. So, and sometimes they put the following passage there, just like even the Brahma Sahambadi say in such a way. And then sometimes they make it like a poem say, even though we might be an ignorant person, but our eyes are still a little dust because we have this strong desire to listen to the Dhamma. You have to preach. So that is a tradition, okay? And even the same thing in the monastery. If you are going to have invite a monk to go to preach, teach you, and then the monk have to make the request as well. And then after hearing the request, and then the monk could deliver freely. If you don't make that request, whatever you say, this is what you say. I didn't ask you to tell me, So I mean, it's a tradition. Anyway, here just to say, sometimes that's just to show that then it happens to that kind of, the tradition, it comes along because of that request happening by, from a Buddhist legend. All right. Now, then after that, the Buddha decided to go to preach. For detail is that the Buddha did use his divine eyes because I guess Rupert Gethin, when he write this book, he didn't want to put too much of this, like for Westerner, sound a little strange thing. So that means like a divine eyes. Even though we will talk about divine eye in the book, but from the start, he used the divine eyes to look at who will be the best person to teach. And he recognized the early two teachers who taught him meditation would be the best person to tell them what is the best way, what is a really, when you're searching for the Dharma or searching for the truth, what is the best way, But anyway, when he used his divine eye and look at where they live, and they found they passed away already, okay? Both of the teachers just passed away. That's why then he was still thinking, then who will be the person that he needed to start to preach? Then he thought that might be those 5 companions, They were together for almost 6 years. So they will be the good person. They will be good enough to understand me. Now this is actually very important, please understand, that to show the Buddhism also, when the Buddha started, he didn't start from nothing, like tell somebody something about a message of important that nobody know who I am, But actually the Buddha, it's the first message to tell about what he has attained is somebody he knows so well and the people knows him so well. Okay? It makes different. What different? But you cannot lie to them. I think, right? You know what I mean? So say that if I know all of you guys now, and we are just seriously practice together, and then after we were living together day and night 6 years, suddenly you know something about me, everything about me, how I snore, how I this, how I that, right? So and then anyway, so one day you didn't like me for some reasons or somehow like that. And then now, after some time, I come back and telling you I have attained enlightenment. It's very hard to convince you guys. I'm sure. What the heck you are? How could you be attained enlightenment? You're such a bad person. You were such. But this is what I like Buddhism actually one way, because it's really it's even this is one to show one of the greatness of the Buddha. It's that he actually back to the person that he stayed with her. Definitely, he had high confidence of himself, that he could really tell them. Now, this is how we come to the text. We are going to read the text before we just say a little background too. And he went actually, now we didn't mention it here, but if you look at the legend of Buddhism, and the legend of Buddhism is really interesting. It showed that the Buddha actually on the way walking towards to Isipatana, the place where these 5 ascetics stay. So actually when he walked over there, he did meet somebody. Somebody saw him. He looks really different. Looked like he was shining, like here shining doesn't mean he really looked like when he's walking, like a sun. Of course then, it's impossible, kind of like. Basically means show that his skin, looks shiny, fresh, So and then one of the wanderers here refer to, we just mentioned in India there are so many type of practitioners. One type of practitioner always wandering around. They left their home and they were just wandering around looking for the teacher, staying under the tree, under the hut, under the cave, And saw him, he thought he must be something marvelous. So that's why he asked him. He looked at the Buddha and say, are you the God or are you the human? So, that's an Indian language. Are you the Deva? Just now we say. Or Deva, are you the Deva or are you the Manusha, or that means human? Are you the Deva or are you the Manusha? Then the Buddha replied him, I neither as the Deva, neither as the Manusha. I mean, I'm neither as a God, I'm neither as the Manusha. But at that time, if he say, I'm the God, he would be definitely very popular. People worship it like a God. But he say, no, I'm neither the God and neither the human. Of course, this is so strange. And then actually, after that wanderers, ascetic, were not very pleased to hear about that. And he say, okay, maybe, whatever. So he left. So, actually, when you learn Buddhism, it's interesting. Usually, if really speaking, if there's a question asking you and say, actually, did the Buddha, according to what our record had, did the Buddha first preaching was very successful? You could argue that not, because the first person who were really interested about him, trying to know him, didn't get his attention actually. And
He didn't really teach him either. He was just like, I'm the conqueror of life. I'm conqueror of this.
yeah. No. I mean, that's for sure, but maybe he knew that he's not kind of interested already. So anyway, this is something. I mean, I like to say this too because it depends on people. I remember when I learned Buddhism, like when I started to learn Buddhism, everybody telling me everything the Buddha is, he could do everything, like. But then when I read this kind of legend, this is not only actually even in Pali, but also in Chinese too. But Chinese I don't want to mention about it also. But I mean, I find that kind of amused by that, like, oh wow, that look like a Buddhism is really, how to say, you could say really truthful some way, or whatever. At least they serve the purpose. Maybe he just want to tell, don't think he's really, after his enlightenment, he could be fly like a, like alien, something like that. So it's think it differently, somehow like this. But at least to me, like it struck. Oh, really? This passage is there, but why this monk in the past they don't want to delete it? Because in old day, it's not written. It's all reciting, and recite and repeat and repeat. But if they find this is not nice, they had to put it aside, and they had to cut it off, right? And when they committed into writing, before committing to writing, they need to just put that aside. But anyway, if they kept it there, for sure that must be, even those days, in old days, the monks, the community understood there's a purpose for that. The line should be remained, right? Otherwise, they would think this is not something not very good for the Buddha too. But anyway, now then the Buddha approached to Isipatana. That is a park. If you go to India, you still could see the park now. That's usually translated as the deer park because in that park, a lot of deers living around. The word Isipatana is a long explanation. I'm not going to say. Generally mean falling of the sage. There's a 仙人堕, 中文有怎么翻译? In early Chinese translation, during the 3rd century, I think, 安世高 translated that. It's called 仙人堕. I mean, during the 2nd century, actually, about. So, and it's mean, the word Isipatana mean 仙人堕, literally translate as Chinese. It means the sage drop off place, the place that the sage or the sand drop off, 就是仙人掉下来的地方，叫仙人堕. Of course, the Isipatana, it is a beautiful story there too. It's generally is believed that one of the Indian people believe the sage, like they always practicing become a sage, and then the sage can fly. So he was wonderful fly. He could fly over the sky because he have the supernatural power. And then only one day when he fly over the Isipatana, the place, of course at that time there's no such a name, there's just a place, and he saw a beautiful woman there. And flying, and then his idea was thinking about the last come to that, the sage, and then he just dropped from the sky. That's why it's called Isipatana. 仙人堕下来的堕啊，堕落的堕啊。So, but anyway, but then that place is. I mean, there's a lot of, you have to understand Indian culture, really, really interesting. But of course, however, that place is still, because that sage is so popular, and like very famous sage. So of course, and then that place has all become a one of the place people believe you could easily attend it's good 气场, it's good, a good and good, what they call, good vibe there, so, and then you could practice. Anyway, he went over there, so these 5 ascetics saw him. At first, they were not really. These 5 ascetics did make a kind of promise to each other, saying, "Okay, look at that corrupted monk coming now, or corrupted, practitioner coming now. We don't want to talk to him." And then, it's also out of the polite. You don't want to, this is a politeness. You don't do anything, but we all just remain silent and don't want to look at him and don't want to talk to him. So, because from far away he could see this corrupted companion, the old companion came, approaching them. So anyway, when the Buddha close by, and then there were few of them will feel really like suddenly feel pleased, and because they saw the Buddha look very different now. Like if you look at the Buddhist picture, like when the Buddha was during the 6-year austerity, he was so slim, you know. He could see on his bone, and all the bone, and this is how he described. This is from the early old Buddhist text. This is definitely the true one. He said, when I was doing austerity, so my belly skin almost can touch the back of the skin, you know. And all my bone just could, you know, like a skeleton basically. And he could see all this green colored vein, you know, around. So he was like that. Now he completely transformed into look very healthy, kind of like, you know. And of course, must be very serene, you know, not like in those days, must be a lot of suffering face, but then suddenly have a kind of contentment, serene. So out of that reasons, his ascetic actually approached him, wash his leg, you know, because they had to walk on barefoot, you know. Wash not his legs, wash his foot, and then prepare the seat for him to sit. When he just sat, and then he was started to want to talk about, so to say something, what he had discovered, that asked, you know, admonishing them to not wasting their time doing that thing, but rather than try another approach, you know, because they stay together because the aim is attain nirvana. So, and they asked him to stop. Stop, we don't want to listen to you. But then according to the text say, and the Buddha trying to say the second time, he says, stop, I don't want to listen to you. You know, in Indian culture, maybe this is how the Indian culture is. When you ask somebody, do you want to eat? They first say no. Or maybe they will say no. You have to ask 3 times to make sure, okay? And you ask second time, do you really want to eat? No. But it's like, you sure you don't want to eat? No, then you know it's really. Don't just ask, do you want to eat? No. You know. So maybe yes, actually, you know. So, no, it's true. Even same in the Buddhist monastery. Not Chinese, in old days they do the same thing. When you look at the Chinese, according to the Chinese regulation, when you stay in the monastery, they used to have that. But now, of course, because things change, you know. But they used to have that. When you really have something serious matter, you say, oh, teacher, could you come to teach our class? No. So don't just stop there, okay? Please, always ask 3 times, you know. But you know, but we like to hear what you are teaching. So if you have time, please give her the teaching. And you say no. Okay, that's the second time you know. Okay. So make sure that you have asked 3 times, that he will say 3 times no. Right?
If you are from the airport, I ask you only twice.
I'm not. You know why I want to say that. If we look at even in the history, in the recent history, there was sometimes they have certain debates about like the monastery, you know, power and all sort of thing, and they came around. And then sometimes they accuse that no, I did ask him to do that, but they say no. But then his answer is, I just only say 1 no. But you please understand, don't be. You might be listening. You know, what is nonsense? But actually, you need to culturally. It's because that's how tradition is. That it always have to make sure a thing is 3 no. But if you say no, you did say the 3 no. Okay, it will be keep quiet. Okay. No, I don't. So I have to say, when I was living in Sri Lanka, I had a habit too. When the people say, "Do you want to come with us?" No. You sure? No. No, you know, it's very fun, it's nice, you know, you can meet a lot of friends. Okay, yes, you know. And the same thing, and like, you know, in old days, this is how we learn in the monastery. We had to learn all these sort of things, very small thing, but it's very important. Like, you're approaching a toilet, you don't know whether the toilet was there, because the door is always closed. And you know, in those kind of countries, the facility is not necessarily always very good, but whatever. It's a culture. You are not make sure that it's definitely you're not going to lock. You have to use and 3 times, okay? then if no answer, if you say sometimes of course some people reply you, it will say yes, or maybe reply you then you know somebody inside. Okay. No, this have to learn, but sometimes we didn't know that manner, and then we just really like just locking the door, even they will get because they don't have the culture. You lock the boom boom boom. You could be too harsh. So you just like then actually it's asking anyone there like that. So that's how. And always make sure 3 times. Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to say that before we have a break is and then so of course then the Buddha replied that he say he say what also basically mean friends or So have you ever heard that I'm so earnest to? Have you ever encountered that there was a time that I was so earnest to telling you what I have discovered? And then those 5 companions was thinking, yeah, maybe not, And that's why then he allowed him to give the first sermon. And this is we're going to read what his first sermon is about. It's called 初转法轮经 in Chinese. Usually we translate as a setting the wheel of the Dharma in motion, or sometimes simply just say the first sermon. Because definitely it's really important, because that's the first sermon the Buddha taught. Okay, I'm sure you may have some other question, especially if you study from Chinese perspective. If you don't have question, I will be very quiet. I don't want to ask question myself anymore. I'm just joking. All right, shall we just take a break? Say 5 depends on you might be fall asleep a little bit, go to wash your face, or take some water to drink, because if you're too dry, it will make you fall asleep. So I'll see you when you come back, all guys come back here.